Good morning on what is a cool, bright and sunny day. It is Wednesday the 7th of September. I have a cat who's not ours and a nice hot cup of tea. And it's good. And a box to continue digging into. Now I have already pulled out. I pulled out a couple of things from here, including these two, which I was slightly impressed by, given my lack of familiarity with the source material. What I've got here next is Cyberpunk Red, the role-play game of the dark future, of which he heartily approves. So, okay. Welcome to the time of the Red, Chumba. The mega corporations spent decades raking everything, and in the aftermath of their last war, everyone has to fend for themselves. But that's just fine. You can handle it. After all, in a world of vicious boosted gangs, rampaging cyborgs, corporate assassins, and nihilistic doomsday cults, there's only one rule. Always take it to the edge. Take big risks. Get the big rewards. Be the action. Start the rebellion. Light the fire. Never drive slow when you can blaze a trail. You've hooked your Militech pistol to the interface in your brain, upgraded your cybernetic fist with carbo glass blades, and installed cyber eyes that can pierce through the red haze like morning fog. There's a world full of opportunities out there just waiting for the right edge runner. Maybe that's you. Cyberpunk Red is the latest edition of the classic tabletop role-playing game of the dark future, and it covers everything you need to explore the post-war world of the time of the Red, including a dense deep dive into the history and geography of Night City and the greater cyberpunk world, and plenty of the lore about the time of the Red. 10 unique roles for you to play: charismatic rocker boys, lethal solos, quick hacking net runners, hopefully I'm looking forward to seeing how quick, hard-hitting medias, inventive techs, life-saving and taking med techs, duty-bound lawmen, scheming execs, clever fixers, and range-riding nomads. A huge collection of useful tools, powerful weapons, protective armour, and gleaming cyberware to help you rule the street. 3 Scream Sheet adventures to show you what Cyberpunk is all about, pre-generated opponents, perfect population of combat zones and corporate compounds, plus encounters that use them to bring the city to life. It's quite a lot, quite a lot. So, Cyberpunk is the preeminent role-playing game devoted to the cyberpunk genre, and really always has been. First edition sort of like came out in 1988, followed by a couple of years later by Cyberpunk 2020, and then later on by Cyberpunk 3.0 or 3.x, and this is the 4th edition, set somewhere. If Cyberpunk 2020 is set obviously in 2020, like just a couple of years ago, folks, this is set in 2045 and is a prequel of sorts to the computer game Cyberpunk 2077. So let's have a look as I try and work around this cat's head. So, nice shot of Night City, very Blade Runner-esque. But then again, you know, Blade Runner is drawing on sort of like cityscapes in a scene in Japan. So we open up with a piece from Mark designer Mike Pondsmith. It's 2013 and I have a problem. We get into Never Fade Away, 2013. Never Fade Away, got a piece of colour fiction, really setting everything up for the future to come. And then View from the Edge, we've got Introduction to Cyberpunk. Very clean kind of layout. And then we have kind of some splash pages. You know, you want to know about this, turn to page X, so on. So we have want to know about transportation, skip to page 322. Want to know about having fun, 329. You know, about the Roaring 2020s, turn to 242. So we have a street slang. So this feels as sort of like, you know, I've looked at the quick start for this most recent one, and then essentially that felt like a very cut down version of this. But we have in-game adverts, which adds to the verisimilitude of the setting. Before we get into Soul on the New Machine, who will you be? And this explains essentially the core tenets of the setting, which is, you know, new time, bad time, red time. It's always personal. As a cyberpunk player, style over substance, attitude is everything. Live on the edge, and then 4, break the rules, and then roles, the core of the cyberpunk, explaining who they are, what they do, each providing an overview. And these are accompanied by explanations, full-page explanations and presentations of these characters, or these archetypes. So, Rocker Boy and Solo, Medtech and Media, Exec, Lawman, what else we're missing in here? So, Netrunner and Tech, and then Fixer and Nomad, but not Cat. And then we've got sort of step-by-step guide to character creation. You know, basically we've actually got a flow chart as well. You know, and it's obviously sort of like, you know, multiple methods of character creation. So street rats, templates, edge runners, fast and dirty, and then complete packages calculated. Oh, and I think it's about to leave me. Okay, I'll take this moment to have a nice hot cup, nice, more of this nice hot cup of tea. And then we have Tales from the Street, running the life path. And part of character creation is actually rolling on various tables, like your general cultural region, languages you might know, and so on, to determine aspects of your character's background and personality. So we go from cultural origins to personality, dress and personal style, clothing style, affectations, and so on. Your environment, your family crisis, your friends, your enemies. And these sort of like these have been expanded, but they all date back to the earliest iterations of Cyberpunk. They're always there, and then we actually have role-based life paths, so you can tailor you know, your background to your role. So Rocker Boy and Solo, and there'll be one set of tables for each of the different archetypes. And then Future for the Future, we have parts of the character, and we have the standard staple food for the time of the Red, which is pro kibble, which surprisingly, since Cat was not ours, has wandered off, he's no interested in it. But in the time of the Red, this is human food. And then we have the guide to character creation, step-by-step process, using essentially part of the quick process is rolling for an array of your stats on these tables, just basically a D10 roll, and then you just copy down the numbers. It's the skills, of course, and then more of the template guide for creating characters. Next up, weapons and armor. So we have a couple of kind of ranged weapons, nice illustrations, quite large illustrations. I'm quite surprised. But you know, one of the key things about the role-playing game is sort of like it is sort of like quite a lot about your tech and what you're wearing and what you're equipped with, which gives us a lot of flavour and feel of the universe. and so on. Also dealing with fashion before we get into putting the cyber into the punk. One of the, it is a matter of it is, in some ways it is a matter of style over substance. You know, you're basically, how far are you going to be chromed up? How far do you want to push it towards cyberpsychosis? And there is a guide to suffer practicing safe cyber there, because push it too much and you turn into a murderous machine, and essentially the psycho squad comes out and apprehends you. So we have a guide to cyberware and the various types, because you can do it for fashion, you can do it for style, for purpose, but yeah, so you know, it all depends upon your role. You know, if you're a tech, you might have a cyber eye for microscopic detail, and potential, and then sort of like a cyber hand full of useful tools. And then we've got more fiction, The Fall of the Towers. Again, this is advancing the timeline. So we did 2013, now we're doing 2022 for Fall of the Tower, which is a pivotal event in the cyberpunk history. And then we have the basics of resolution, getting it done. And the resolution system is a D20. Sorry, I said D20. It's a D10 plus your stat and skills, and so stat skills and so on, to beat a target. So attacker, for example, so combat is attacker stat plus skill plus 1d10 versus defender stat plus skill plus 1d10. So yeah. Otherwise, it's typically a skill less than combat, and a skill roll otherwise is versus a difficulty value. So we've got a list of all the skills here in greater explanation. Role abilities, because every particular role has its ability. So for the solo, you know, you have combat awareness, which does damage deflection, fumble recovery, initiative reaction, precision attack, spot weakness, and so on. And these can be these in the past they kind of give like flat bonuses, but here you have the player has a chance to really kind of design his character, be a bit more flexible on how he uses his role ability. Okay, and so and then you can create team members as well. So essentially, you can fill out your group if you're missing a particular role. So, for example, you might want a media who will help you track down stories and things to investigate. Or you might want a net runner to do the designer could kind of do the same, but also do net running for you when you're on when you're running the edge. So then we get into Friday Night Fire Night. So I just turn the page. Oh, come on. Does not want to turn this page. Open this page. Come on. There we go. So we've got more books from Garden Books. These actually, I really like these. Are nice to do because they actually refer back to cyberpunk supplements of the past. So Near Orbit was the guide to space and low Earth orbit for the setting, and then we get into we've got Friday Night Firefight, Fast Violence, Cyberpunk Red. This is the combat system. And then we've got combat examples as well in there, and it's also designed to be sort of quite not necessarily cinematic but brutal, with options for for being kind of stylish. So yes, cinematic, I suppose, but it's sort of like it's a mixture of the two. And we do get go to vehicle combat, because obviously you've got character type, the role type, the nomad. Then we probably get into probably one of the more difficult elements of the setting, which is netrunning, hacking in the time of the Red. Now, hacking is I would say, signature aspect of the cyberpunk genre. The whole idea of accessing the net or the matrix, and essentially casting your equivalent of your presence or your soul directly into cyberspace, navigating it to to access or steal data from particular corporations. That sort of thing has been an element of the cyberpunk genre ever since 1984, when we were really kind of introduced to it in a big way with Gibson's Neuromancer, which is it's the signature, essentially the cyberpunk novel. But in previous role-playing games since, everyone's wanted to be a hacker or a netrunner because it's really cool. But mechanically, the problem is that it's always been some kind of subsystem that's taken it's taken sort of like play away from the main narrative and slowed it down once you focus on the one character. So you might have an instant where you're doing a net run, and that might take 10 minutes, but only actually 30 seconds have passed in game time. It is a bit of a problem. Hopefully they've streamlined it. Some of the options of the past have been to say, okay, netrunners can't stay at home and just do the net run from their bedroom whilst the other characters go on the mission. They've disrupted the matrix, and instead player characters, sort of net runners, have to essentially turn up at the site to access localized networks. And then trauma team, because you're going to get shot a lot. Now, Trauma Team is actually a company in the setting of Cyberpunk. You actually take out it's an insurance and a scheme where if you get shot and go down, it will actually come and rescue you and take you to the nearest hospital. And there's a sort of like the campaign, the idea is where you actually play members of Trauma Team yourselves. So where you have the sort of like, if you think about it, you have television series where the members of the cast, the characters, are ambulance crews. And it's their stories. They deal with one patient after another, and their lives away from sort of like community of people. But think of that, adding cyberware and guns and firefights to the mix. It makes for a terrific kind of campaign setup. So that's all dealing with healing and damage and health and cyber psychosis. And then we get to, where we go next? Welcome to the Dark Future. And here we begin the dive into the setting at the time of the Red. And that's what we've got. First we've got a section on the fall of America and how it came about, before we get into a lengthy timeline, which takes us from 1990 through 2020, 2022, and beyond, into the time of the Red, and up to 2045. To the current period, and you've got lots of basically more detail about individual incidents and aspects of the setting. And so then essentially it's got the big picture of 2045. So it's dealing with not just the US. It does cover states beyond North American borders. And then we have also included in that we have the AIs and the Drift Nations and the High Rider Confederation, which is at low Earth orbit, and then looks at the various corporate players in the Time of the Red. One of the big storylines or the core storyline in Cyberpunk has always been the rivalry between two corporations, Arasaka, based in Japan, and Militech. So we have we've got an overview of Arasaka, and then various different corporations like Biotechnica, Continental Brands, but they are not quite so powerful as they once were. We have Militech International. Their influence is strong, but they're not quite so prevalent. Oh yeah, and then we have Trauma Team, the corporation who basically run the armed combat rescue and ambulance service. Then Welcome to Night City, and that's the default location for running your Cyberpunk campaign. We've got a complete guide to the city and history, and how it's recovered since the bomb went off in the early 2020s. And it's a coastal city. It sits on California coast. We've got an overview of it, and in some ways you can actually get a feel for what the city looks like. If you have a look at this sort of like Cyberpunk 2077, it's pretty much like that. Essentially, we've got a guide to the power players of Night City and their roles, and they might turn up as essentially possible patrons. I've got also a guide to the gangs of Night City, and then we have a guide to the places and the key locations, and then everyday life in the Time of the Red, and it really kind of puts it in context. I mean, life, what life is like for the ordinary person, for the edge runner, how to stay in touch, meet your agent, what your agent can do, and essentially your agent is your cell phone or your communication device, and how important it is to you, and things like guidance to how getting around, vehicles, what to eat, how you have fun, bringing the sort of like the colour and the flavour of the feel of the setting to life. So it's not just running missions. It's not necessarily that's not good. I mean, how you have fun or what you eat is not going to come up all the time. But it's job of the game master to drop that into scenes and so on. Oh, you're eating this, or you want to go buy some lunch. What are you going to buy? There's this, or this, or so on. So we've gone to the new street economy, and how essentially supply and demand business operates in a period. And for example, we've got a night market generator. So you might be, just a pop-up market where you might want to get gear. Then we get into actual equipment lists and so on. Everything from exotic weapons, including battle gloves, air pistols, light, medium, heavy pistols, that sort of thing. Very heavy pistols, assault rifles. Now these are all very generic, and it does kind of feel a bit flavourless there, to my opinion. You do feel as if you want to buy something from a particular corporation or a particular brand. And then fashion guide, everything there from bag lady chic to Asia pop, and back again, cyber optics, cyber audio, external bodies, cyberware, everything in there. Essentially, here's your extensive equipment list in the new street economy, up to including purchasing goods, running Cyberpunk, or how do I run this game anyway? That's exploring the urban environment, know the world, contrast, trust no one, set the mood, and so on. As well, you also have a bibliography there, or filmography as well. So that does include Neuromancer and Gibson's other novels, but also Snow Crash, and Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, Cyberpunk filmography, Akira, Aliens, Alien, Blade Runner 2049, The Expanse, Ghost in the Shell, and so on. All fairly familiar, but I mean, generally all available. I should get you a feel and flavour for what a cyberpunk setting is like. And then essentially, this is all the guide for running Cyberpunk, and all the elements in here, using beat charts, essentially story beats, to create a scenario, essentially with hooks, developments, cliffhangers, so on, climax, and so on, with examples, and then essentially playstyle based improvements, so essentially earning improvement points to improving the character. We've got a list of stats and so on for mooks and grunts and various NPCs. And then encounters as well. Sections of encounters, essentially just nothing really to see there. And then Night City news and your news and your way. I do like these adverts. These in-game adverts. They do kick and flavour. And these are screen sheets. Essentially, what they do is present sort of like a news file with articles and so on, which the player characters can read and then go, okay, get some use to derive an adventure from, to find employment. So there's several of these, and then also Sanro, Hello Cutie, bring on the sunshine, bring on the smiles, Hello Cutie's here, wash away the psycho frown, grab your best gat in town, the cutest pistol on the market, so adorable they bleed pink. Which is utterly ridiculous. So then we finally have Black Dog, set in 2045, and that's colour fiction, and brings everything up to date. Because you've got this constant sort of like line of fiction throughout the book, kind of interspersed and so on. So that brings it sort of like, gives it sort of like a narrative flow. So yeah, then you have lastly character sheets. And yes, in the time of the red, the game graphics do make a lot of red. It's appropriate, which is appropriate. So yes, that is Cyberpunk Red, the role-playing game of the dark future, new edition, which I plan to review in the very near future. Anyway, I hope you have enjoyed this unboxing in the Nook. If you have, please do click on the like button down below. And of course, you've got the comments or feedback. I appreciate you taking the time to post those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to yet more unboxings in the Nook, where you'll see me out here with a box from which I will unbox a game or book and chat about it to the best extent of my knowledge for roughly 10 minutes or so. All, of course, accompanied by a nice hot cup of tea. Then please do hit that subscribe button down below. In the meantime, thanks again for watching another unboxing in the Nook. I'll be back again soon with another one. Bye for now.